Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the final round of the Sim Hound Academy series here at oNiD. Tonight, obviously, I'm not Northern, and I'm not Dave. I'm filling in for Dave. He has taken a break from streaming, I think, for a while, so we've got me tonight, Sam, but joined, as ever, by the wonderful Tyler Hammer. Welcome, Tyler. How are you? How are you feeling for tonight? It's Le Mans. It's Le Mans Ultimate. You know, it has to be the finale in my mind. I'm looking forward to this.
Me too. It's always a good race around Le Mans.
Yeah, it definitely is, and it's always a long outlap, as well as we obviously wait for the guys and gals to plod along, get some temperature into their tyres, ready for their first flying laps when they get around to it. They've got plenty of time to do so, and they've got plenty of help as well. It's a very, very toasty 49 degrees C track temp currently, so I don't think there'll be too many issues with getting some temperature into their tyre, but yeah, hopefully they'll get all prepared and ready to go. Let's see who's actually leading the way. I think possibly it's Brian Anderson, who is currently on his flying lap, if I'm reading. Oh no, sorry, he's on his out laps. So everyone's on their out laps. Long way to go yet. I can find someone easy.
Sirs.
Let's see. Is anybody on an actual lap yet? I don't think so, but we'll listen to the glorious V12 of Harrison Webb then. For a while anyway, until we do get some flying laps. So I've got this little bit of respite as well. I say respite, we haven't just started, but I will use this opportunity just to take a quick look at the standings. I don't have any fancy graphics, but what I can tell you is it's still all to play for already in both the hypercar and the GT3 classes. It's not all sewn up and done yet. Hackers currently leads the way, only by 5 points though. I don't think he may be here tonight, but Carpenter is only 5 points behind, as I mentioned. Dan Stevens not far behind that either in the hypercar top three. For the GT3, it's even close. Obviously, John Metcalf leads away from Max Farrell, again 5 points, but 1 point between Farrell and Lewis. Obviously, all those drivers here tonight. Similarly, Anderson in fourth as well, not far ahead of P5 in the standings either. So very important tonight to get a good result and, you know, keep at bay the maybe tiredness you can get from just going down the straight at Le Mans.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny. I actually haven't been keeping up with all that stuff, so it's actually good to have someone actually pay attention to that.
Yeah, no, I haven't either because I obviously raced a couple races recently, and then this week I'm streaming. But looking at the standings here, I'm surprised it is so close. But obviously, it's great to see that there's competition all the way to the end. Harrison Webb now, though, on his first flying lap in the V12. Obviously, the Aston Martin, the car that I picked to drive in this series as well, I can tell you for a fact, will be absolutely flying down this straight here. Obviously, really great top end. Once it gets there, it just keeps going. You shift up to 7th while everyone else is maxed out on the limiter already. So great top end if you can use it and get a good exit. It's still important, obviously, to get a good exit onto the monster out of these chicanes as Harrison Webb obviously heads towards Mulsanne corner. Tricky corner. It doesn't look so hard on the track map and when you see it, but you come down to it, there's a flick of the right slightly and then you're onto the brakes suddenly, but it's not a traditional stay on the brakes, V off the corner and get going again. It feels like such a long corner, and suddenly you find it tightening up at the exit, and we can see there you end up in the sand if you get it wrong.
It's in the hypercars too. It's like what you said, it's in such a long corner. It's like you think you're like, oh, I'm braking it up, and then you lock, and then you're off.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's plenty wide enough and plenty long enough as a corner to give other drivers around you a sniff of a chance of sending something or sending a move up. So, if you do get that brake a bit wrong or maybe not as right as some others, you do find yourself missing out and, going side by side down towards Indian Arnage, obviously, as we see indeed a Webb come through Arnage, a couple 90-degree bends, and Indianapolis as well, another tricky one. I think it's slightly off camera if I remember correctly as well. So you can end up going in there with so much speed coming out of turn 20, that little kick beforehand, and you've got to straighten up and get on the brakes so quickly, it's easy to misjudge as we see Webb finish off sector 3 then. Obviously, again, these few corners here always gets ever so close to that wall. These few sequence of corners, it's all about confidence as far as I'm concerned. How much can you afford to just lift off the accelerator, and still remain within the limits of grip and use as much as the track as you can, obviously again with the grip and obviously within the legal limits. So one more chicane to go for Webb, a tricky chicane to play fair if you get it wrong as well. Opens up the final corner, rides the curb somewhat nicely, still more on the plate, but let's see then where he goes. 327 0.6 is the benchmark. Honestly, I've got no idea if that's good or bad, but it is certainly a time on the board, which is a relief. Good to have that banker lap in quali and really relieves a load of pressure, I think.
For the AMs, a 27 is pretty good. Obviously we had in the Monday series a little bit at do like a 23, which is just absolutely insane. But for the AMs, like getting into 26 would probably be ideal, but 27 is very good.
Yeah, great to hear. And obviously Webb resetting there to the pits. As you say, great time, so can afford to reset, and if he needs to, and get going again. We watch Anderson here in the GT3, isn't that green GT3? Carpenter, by the way, sneaking in 4/10 behind Webb for the Hypercars Hackers again into third. A bit of a gap there, a second of a gap, and then Barmby opening up that gap even more, a couple more seconds in fourth in the Toyota. And great to see such a variety of manufacturers as well. I know it's really early days, but it's good to see, equal performance somewhat in the field there tonight. We'll watch Anderson. And these corners look so much slower in the GT3, not because they're driving badly, just because obviously the raw pace that the Hypercar have and the amount of grip they can carry and the average speed through the corners obviously a lot higher. But certainly enough room tonight, widthways and lengthways, if you like, for the Hypercars to get past the GT3s. Fairly easy as well, but there are certainly a couple corners, a couple places where if you do catch the GT3s as a Hypercar, really is quite unlucky and really can upset the balance of the car if you handle it wrong.
Yeah, like the Porsche curves. You catch a GT car through there, you're going to be swearing at everything.
Yeah, certainly. Definitely. Lacerda has set a time for the GT3s. He's leading that pack by 1.3 seconds, I believe. Let me see if I can update this to see. There we go. 4 minutes and 1.8 seconds for Lacerda in the GT3s. Lewis 1.3 behind that. Farrell, 2 seconds behind that. Those times on the board, obviously, that is the gap to the leader's time, not the interval to the driver ahead.
I've just jumped up to second. He's within 2/10 now, so.
He did, yeah. And from my experience as well, that first lap, Sure, you know, the time's okay, get on the board, but the subsequent laps, they just tend to get quicker and quicker as, you know, the tyres and pressures come up. You get a bit more confidence and understanding of what the track feels like. The track evolves. Obviously, there is that progression we've got. So those times will certainly come down. And for Metcalf, seeing he's so close to Lacerda, that's an added kind of oomph you get as a driver. You know, you're so close, you know you've got it in you. All you've got to do is have a tidier exit, maybe onto the straight, for instance, or just, you know, nail your braking a bit more if you know you've been a bit more conservative on your banker lap, and you can find that time quite easily. Carpenter still sitting 4 tenths away from Webb. We'll watch Anderson come across the line. Let's see what he can do. Up to 9th with a 4 minute, 8 seconds and 2 tenths. So a bit of a gap there to Kev Hunter, who sits just ahead of him. But as I said, all banker laps really at the moment. We've got Barnby here as well. That's the wrong driver on the click on, but no worries. We've got Barnby in the Toyota. I think the Toyota, by the way, not because I've sat behind them for so long, but I think they have a great rear end following them. I mean, I just think it looks fantastic as a hypercar.
Yeah, I think that, and like the personally the Caddy would be better looking cars from you behind. One of the very few cars that you don't mind being behind.
Indeed, and the Toyota, fair enough, it's got enough pace to earn its place just ahead of you as a driver, I think, as well. But Barnby looking nice and tidy through the Porsche cars, which in a way isn't really a compliment. You know, Porsche curbs and you know, these sequence of corners, you want to be on the ragged edge, using as much of the track as you're allowed to, carrying as much speed as you can. Obviously, Barnby enter the pits rather dodgily, but it's good he's done that in the qualifying session as practice and not in the race. Obviously, very, very easy to pick up penalties, and always certainly good to practice your pit ins and pit outs, and especially so if you want to avoid a speeding penalty, or you want to, you know, find those 3 seconds. That's the freest time you'll ever find, I think, on any circuit in a rookies kind of league, is just by practicing your pit in. You know, other drivers may not do that. They may do it, they might get it wrong, too early, too late. It's free time. It's so much free time. Definitely do that, everyone.
Yeah, you don't realize how much time you can actually gain in a pit stop until you get a really, really good pit entry, and all of a sudden you jump someone in the pits, and it's like, oh, I'm 3 seconds ahead of them. How is this? It's like, just because you got a better pit entry than them.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Jacob Hine here in the Alpine. Fantastic sounding car. Obviously, we talk about the V12, but the whistle of the Alpine, I think, is superb. Hine here, I flicked him because he hasn't got a time on the board. He sits last, obviously, in the hypercar field. Unusual for Hine, I think, particularly as a driver. Generally, obviously, we've seen him is pretty good, I should say. But I think he's got a decent amount of experience at Le Mans as well. So maybe just pushing too far too soon, you know, and not really just get the one lap done and then push for the limits instead of trying to nail it on the first run.
Yeah, it seems so. Maybe he's invalidated a couple laps too. Maybe that's what his problem is.
Yeah, true. And the qualifying graphic would be useful, I think, if I'd clicked on that maybe 13 minutes ago. But no matter, here we are. Does improve in the first couple of sector screen there. We do see he's a second or so net off the leader's time. So, off the fastest laps time so far, I believe. But we'll have to keep an eye on what his sector 3 is like. Either way, a time on the board is going to be invaluable. You know, even if it puts you halfway up the grid instead of 12th, that's 6 cars you've effectively overtaken for free. Go on board, shall we, with Jacob in the Alpine, just for a few corners so to see what his style's like, how much of a rein he's got on the Alpine. Nice and flat, obviously, through here. Again, it's all about being brave through these sequences of corners, keeping it nice and tight, but, you know, just keeping the oversteer in check as well with just those micro counter steers. It's kind of intuitive. You don't think about it, obviously, you just kind of react to it. And I think at some point you get to know a car and a track combination so well, you kind of correct for the oversteer before it actually occurs, I find. So you see him flick it over the chicane here. One more to go. And indeed crosses the line, showing purple, sector 3, but I think that's a lie. Moves up to 4th, though, so great improvement, obviously. And a mere 3 tenths away from Knowles as well, who snuck his way up to P3 as well in the Porsche. Great looking hypercar as well. I think they're all great in their own way, but I can't help myself but say it every time I see them, to be honest. For the GT3 as well, Lewis finds himself in 3rd. We've still got Metcalf in P2 and Lacerda leading the way. Metcalf just hasn't been able to find that time that he needs to improve. Yellow sector there for Elliot Lewis by a considerable amount. We'll look at P4. Actually, Hovset P4 in the pits as it stands. Max Sharrow currently resides in P5, also in the pits. Chris Wacker and Co behind him are on track, looking to improve. Here he comes in his BMW, possibly putting Max and Nazarian at risk. Second away from Nazarian, actually second away from Max as well, and they are ever so close in the GT3 car. Purple sector 1 for Chris, green sector 2 as well. So sector 3, there's so much time to be found, and Chris will be obviously looking to move on a couple places. He gets pushed down to... Oh, sorry, no, he's still in sector. I thought he was further up briefly, but comes round Indianapolis, I believe, up towards Arnage, as I quickly alt tab to read the track map. Goes ever so deep, in fact, goes so wide. He's off the circuit, and will probably have to abort his run there into the gravel, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was muted earlier, but I was saying I was ashamed that Porsche is pulling out of whack next year.
Yeah, I did. My heart did break a little when I saw that news, to be honest. Carpenter here, green in sector 1, sector 2. Only a tenth or so off in each sector to the fastest times in those sectors even. They only need to find 4/10 in this final sector. And it is a long one, obviously, to replace Webb on pole. We've also got Knoll still on track, Hines still on track, looking to improve up to from 4th. Hackers on track still. The remainder of the hypercars are in the pits, and we see more and more of the GT3s also, running out of time, running out of track, and having to reset to the pits. Carpenter almost running out of grip, sliding his way around the right hand there, and that's what I mean when I say I want to see it ragged through this section. Really push the limits. If it looks tidy, you're not going quick enough through here, as far as I'm concerned.
Especially with the Lambo being on the base setups, it's very much it gets nicknamed Pogo Stick for a reason. But as you can see, it's just when you actually get on it and the car jumps, it means it's actually the suspension's working. You're getting the grip at least.
Yeah, we can see the Carpenter flicking it around that chicane, and the suspension, I should say, just working to keep those tyres on the circuit, giving them grip. They come across the line. They do improve in sector 3. They don't improve in terms of their position either, but they only move a tenth up and remain P2. That's the end of their qualifying. Ollie Knowles, let's have a look. He's not improving very much either, unfortunately. Jacob Hine, can he do any better? Green in sector 2, 4/10 down from sector 1. I don't think that's going to be enough, unfortunately, considering the gap between him and Knowles. Let's have a look at GT3s quickly whilst we've got a remainder. Metcalf pulling over. That's the end of their session in P2. Hagen, Hagen in 8th in GT3s. Purple sector 1, green sector 2, looking to improve. They only need 2/10, and now that's less than a tenth really in sector 3 to improve up their position. Let's see if they can do it. And they can't, unfortunately. P8. For them, I believe they might have invalidated that final sector. That's why they haven't moved up. And I think also that might be the end of qualifying. I said that, sorry, Anderson, the man we started with, shall be the man we finish with his stickered BMW, approaching the finish line, approaching the end of quali, and approaching the end of the season as well. And we'll obviously practice a pit entry. Indeed,
a lot better than the last one we saw.
Yes. A lot tighter, a lot more conservative, and thinks that's enough for them.
So times, Lacerda had a heck of a middle sector compared to everyone else. Because even I think it was, I forget who else was it when they were purple in sector 1. It was still a second. They were still a second down in the second sector, which is just all the straight. So
yeah, they were half a second quicker than the next quickest in sector 2. Sorry. I don't know if that's true on this. Oh, it doesn't matter. Either way, they were rapid. Let's see where the grids... Oops. Put that there. I was quickly trying to find the standings again to see if we've got anyone... I don't want to use the word relevant. Let's see how quick I can do this. So Hackers, who leads the way in the hypercar champion standings, even did replace Webb, it seems, at the end of qualifying. We must have missed that. As they sit on pole in their BMW. And Carpenter, who sits P3, is P2 in the standings, will obviously have to overtake Hackers, and Hackers will have to drop back some for them to replace them for the lead and for the win. Dan Stevens, who sits in P3 in the standings, sits, well, last on the hypercar grid, unfortunately, P12. But, long way to go. Le Mans, lots of things can happen, especially when a pit stop is involved. These drivers won't be able to fuel save enough. They will have to, I believe, have at least one splash and dash, and that can make such a difference. Such a difference. John Metcalf leads the way in GT3s, sits second on the grid behind Rafa Lacerda there, and Max Farrell P2 in the standings. Sixth, I'm going to say, or fifth, I can't count, on the grid. And Elliot Lewis, who's third in the standings, is currently third on the grid. So, it's so close. There's still work to be done yet. And I do think this will be a great race. I'm looking forward to this much.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting to see how these battles play out. Championships.
Let's also put this on. Oops, that was the wrong one. Click this button here. This one. Okay, as they come round then and prepare for their first laps of the final race. No pressure. I think this is probably a trickier start, to be honest. It's such a quick start, but it quickly goes into corners that you can really overestimate. Sort of like Kota, Sector 1, I think. We'll have to wait and see. Lambo's obviously looking racy, ready to go. Porsche there, not far behind as well. Alpine, Toyota, just a whole mix of manufacturers at the sharp end of the field here, ready to go and try and get the jump on each other. And, if you're on the second row here, you're probably thinking, at least I've got a toe down the straight. These two drivers in front, they're going to be fighting for it and might miss out big time on that.
Yeah, definitely, It's one of those things where it's like you're almost happy to qualify on the second row. On the straight, you can make up all that lost time that you maybe lost in qualifying. So,
yeah, certainly, I agree. Getting ready. This feels like an eternity when you're on the grid. But not long to go. Now I love the green Peugeot lights in the background as well. They look fantastic as they approach the line to get going. Everyone hoping they can get around that final corner before the lights do go green. That's a feeling I've had. Where you think, I'm going to be so buggered here, and be really screwed. But there should be plenty of room as we wait for the green flag to drop. And there it goes. They are away indeed. BMW of Hackers looking fairly even with the Aston Martin of Webb actually as they approach turn 1. Webb crawling out a little bit of advantage on the inside there as well. The Porsche of Knowles, the background, just biding his time, lifting off a bit early. The Alpine obviously as well doesn't want to get caught up in this. The Lamborghini sending it on the inside, a mini lockup there. Aston Martin, BMW running deep. So does the Porsche, I believe, but they follow each other off. One gets the advantage, the other one wants it too, I suppose. They put up that gap to P3. There's a yellow flag somewhere. Porsche and Lamborghini of Ollie Knowles going side by side in the background. I'll try and see who's that yellow flag. That's Kev Hunter and Dean Smith in the GT3 field. We'll watch these guys as they head on towards the Mulsanne Straight. Such an important corner this. They must get it absolutely right to not get absolutely mugged at the start here. The gaps are growing at the front there actually as everyone trickles onto the start finish straight. Let's have a look further down and see what's happening with the tail end of the hypercars and with the beginning of the GT3s.
Ooh, Lacerda really lost out, it seems. He went from first all the way down to fourth. Look at that.
He did, yeah, 3 places down and looking all over the back of Max Farrell, left and right, trying to get, alongside at least, but wants the slipstream as well, obviously, as they approach the fair chicane on the Mulsanne Straight. Nice and tidy, no aggressive, desperate moves so far. We see in the background as well, Chris Wacker getting past Matt Hagan in his Porsche there, and obviously in the background, all those cars scrapping just to try and get going into single file and get into rhythms as best they can. We've got Carpenter right on the back of Ollie Knowles and his Porsche as they go through the second chicane, running out very wide, carrying as much speed as they can, but I think that's cost them slightly, running slightly deep and given Knowles a tiny bit of a breather as they approach Mulsanne corner. Matt Hagan here wants that position back from Chris Wacker. Porsche with the Dyno-esque livery onto the brakes for the second chicane. Oh, just gets clipped and turned around by Chris Wacker. I think there was enough overlap there to warrant some space given, to be honest, from that BMW. I think we'll leave that to the stewards as well, if they do want to report. We see the hypercar of Jacob Hein going off the background as well. Manages to, I think, just avoid the wall, but certainly will cost him many, many positions.
It seems that Lacerda actually has damage. That is why he is falling back a little bit. The steering wheel is a little bit slightly leaning to the left.
Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, it's trying to. It's that awkward thing of, you know, it's that vague feeling when you're crabbing of, you know, you have to turn it slightly to the side to keep it straight, but you don't have that feeling to know exactly when it is. But certainly good shout. And now he's going to have to decide, does he want to? Can he live with that damage? And would it be better to do that sooner or later? Certainly not, to be honest, because he's going to need to go long enough at least so that he can stop and refuel for the second half of the race. Otherwise, he'll have to stop twice.
Exactly. The worst part is with the Le Mans, it's like you don't really know how bad the damage is until you get to the course turns. Because if you can do the rest of the track, that's great. You can't do the entire third sector, basically. What are you going to do? You have to pit at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And luckily, those curves are before the pit entry, so he does have time to decide, but it could be a very harsh lesson if he misjudges the steering inputs there. We'll stick with Max Farrell, who is hurrying Lewis just ahead. McLaren does have Lacerda behind, as we were talking about, but you know, with that damage, it's going to be tricky for him to get anything done, I don't think, at this early stage. Farrell just keeping up with Lewis. Metcalf, who's overtaken the lead, obviously, and is scurrying away, it has to be said. Over 2 seconds now is the gap. Pressure's off for him, I think, as far as he's concerned. He's got minutes, plenty of time before the hypercars come up and start lapping them, unlike other circuits, so he can have plenty of time to build that gap up without being interrupted and having his rhythm unsettled. And we can just see there on the track map as well. Jacquemin, I'm going to go with, I'm sorry, Emily, in the Cadillac here. Just see how far back they are, and maybe they have damage as well. Let's have a look on the inside quickly, because they do look to be struggling. It must be said, yes, certainly, crabbing is an understatement, and this is a tricky thing at this circuit. Such a long way to go to get anywhere. You have to put your foot down, but that just increases the risk that you're going to bin it, to be honest, when you've got that damage.
Yeah, exactly. It's such a long lap here that anytime we get any kind of damage, it's the worst time. Back to the pits.
Indeed, Matt Barmby here and Fiona Gressner, P5 in the Peugeot, just ahead, keeping Matt Barmby at bay. We've seen Aston Martin in the background of Grevschmoll as well, wanting in on this action. He has the advantage that he's caught up to this, obviously in the Aston Martin with that fabulous gearbox, but it's caught up to this battle, double slipstream, not having to worry about, you know, dealing with a Peugeot front, can just come up to this with his pace, slip on by. I say that, the Peugeot of Gressner is just running away now on as they come to approach the second chicane here. You see a look from the Aston Martin in the background. I think he's got just enough alongside. Onto the brakes. I think a bit too conservative there on the inside. You know, you do have to brake a bit more being on the inside, but I think they slightly misjudged that, and Marby's built that gap up again now and is able to chase down the Peugeot again. Harrison Webb leads the way. I've just been given... Okay. I'll just give it a note, sorry, from Dave. But yeah, Harrison Webb leads the way by over 3 seconds now in the hypercar field. And again, it's that kind of circuit where he's got so much time before he has to worry about dealing with traffic that, you know, he can just get into his rhythm and build that gap up comfortably and control the race, really.
Yeah, it's like the gap he has now. You know, almost 4 seconds where he's just, now he can just cruise. He's at the moment he's doing purple first and second sector, so he's not chilling. He's taking the Max Verstappen route of push no risk.
Yeah, exactly. Indeed, yeah, certainly. Certainly. It's Chris Wacker here. Still finds himself in fights on the back of Nazarian the Norwegian, I'm going to say, in that Porsche, the little Porsche that could. He does like his Porsche, does offset, but onto the brakes goes Wacker for the hairpin-esque corner. Bit of sand flicked up by both the Porsche and the BMW, as they're both obviously looking at the gap and trying to push as best they can. It's funny when you see these kind of battles that are taking place in two completely different spaces. You know, the gap is 7/10. Sure, he's not bumper to bumper, but they are battling each other and are trying to maximize their speed at every corner to keep that gap where it is or close the gap up in Wacker's case, obviously.
Yeah, the way it is around Le Mans is, as far as I'm concerned, as long as you can see the car in front of you, you have a chance.
And Barbie pulls off to the pits. Yeah, and very racy line into the pit entry, onto the brakes, well in time, pit limiter on, and has he got an interesting strategy where he can feel safe for the rest, or has he got an issue that he'll have to deal with? He may have a drive-through. He doesn't. Okay, he's pulling over. Fair enough. Fair enough. Whilst we've got Anderson here coming up to the back of the Ferrari of Ryan Davies. Ferrari, which Dave Woods in chat loves, I've heard. And quite a nice livery as well on Ryan Davies' Ferrari. I like that green very much so.
Yeah, the Dino, as he likes to call it, has hurt him in ways unimaginable.
That's fair enough. Ben Meyer here in the Aston Martin. The Hobnob Biscuit Jaffa Cake, Aston Martin, whatever it is, catching up to Matt Hagan as well. I don't know if Ben's ill, I can't remember if he said. There is a yellow flag, and unfortunately, that's for Hovset. Let's have a quick look at a replay and see how that happened.
I have a feeling I know exactly how this happens. Yep, too much grass. Oh no, it actually was later than I thought. Too much curb.
Yeah, it did look like a lot of curb, but it looked like a lot of curb, but it didn't look like, you know, too much in a way. But we'll eventually get going again. I think my replay's broken. We'll try this. There we go. Gets going again.
It's still early enough in the race. They're going to let everyone, more or less everyone by.
Yeah, exactly. Webb here was briefly showing his yellow flag as well. I have to see if when the last lap comes through whether to have an incident or if I'm being lied to. The gap still looks pretty healthy either way. 3 and a bit, nearly 4 seconds to be honest, in the lead there. But you know, I'm sure he could be pushing here and can use as much fuel as he wants. Everyone's going to stop. But when you do stop, if you can have a slightly shorter stop, it does make a difference. So if you can feel safe enough where you keep a good pace with the field, but your stop is shorter, you will find yourself ahead, or at least closer when you get back onto the circuit. Fiona Gressler going very deep coming out of the Mulsanne corner there and gives the Aston Martin of Mark Gressmore a chance. He slips back into the slipstream underneath the quote-unquote wing, if you like, of the Peugeot. Tries to go to the outside, gets blocked by the defending Peugeot, leaves the inside wide open, but this is a kink that leads into a heavy braking zone. I thought they were a different part. Here's the kink that leads into a heavy braking zone. The Aston Martin wisely backing off, almost ending up onto the grass and probably in the wall if he'd messed that up, but they both managed to take Indianapolis fine and well. The Aston Martin again thinking about a look to the inside of Vanage, thinks better of it, but doesn't have to tire anything. The Peugeot goes deep again, all on their own volition, or whatever that word is. Side by side now towards the Porsche curve section, still side by side. Both these cars are famed for their speed. In fact, I've got a little widget here. We can see the top speeds here as they go door banging into the Porsche curve section. Eventually, Peugeot still remains ahead, and we see the Aston Martin also bonk into the wall over the curbs, loses the race, spins around, and comes away with major damage is what I was going to say, but I think that's the luckiest off there I've ever seen in my life. I thought he was a goner for sure.
I thought the win was going to be gone there in a minute.
Yeah, me too, but I guess it comes away with roasty toasty tires, it seems. Unbelievable. Seriously, if Mark, if you had no damage from that, Mark, in the Discord, please confirm, because I can't believe you got away with that, to be honest. Unbelievable. Kev Hunter on the back of Nathan Turner here into the slipstream as they approach. Again, the kink and eventual left-hander. Another yellow flag for Dean Smith, I think. Unfortunately, we'll see with these two getting closer and closer. Two interesting cars, because the Aston Martin and Mercedes, obviously, both probably the most planted GT3s. I'm trying to think what else there is.
I think it's honestly just those. I mean, maybe you could argue the BMW, but the BMW can be lively at times.
Yeah, no, that's true. Fair enough. Yeah, these two getting into a bit of a battle soon, I suppose. Matt Hagen sneaking into this fight as well in his Porsche behind, making it a three-way as they go into the wigglies, the Porsche curves, whatever. They're staying fairly even as the gap through this complex as well, and this is your closest battle as well. Everyone else is kind of separating themselves. I say that Matt Barnby, that's why he's got no gap to the car in front. He's in the pits, and the car in front is Jacob Pine, as I've misclicked terribly. The Alpine sitting just in front of him. I think both his drivers repairing damage, I'd imagine, if they are stopping this early. Obviously, we saw Jacob Pine have a couple of moments off earlier on this race, and has been sitting here for some time. Let's have a little look. Sitting here for over a minute now is Jacob Pine, and Matt Barnby coming up 30 seconds stop, so quite a while in the pits.
That was Barnby's second stop too, I think.
Let's have a little look on my little screen. Barnby. Yes, you're right. Yeah, he's already had to stop. Indeed. Anderson again teasing us with a battle with Ryan Davies. Davies having a slightly slower last lap to Anderson, only just though, mind you. Kevin Hunter, Matt Hagen still going strong in that battle. Ollie Knowles got up to P2. Indeed. 6/10 is the gap to Hackers, but visibly, it's, you have that, you're that close visibly. You just seem to get closer and closer at that point. And the pressure builds for the driver ahead, Hackers in this case, in his BMW, wanting to obviously get back onto the sharp end and replace P1, who took it away from him early days, obviously. Taking as much of that curb as he can, does Ollie in his Porsche. Say approach starting another lap there, nice and tidy through. This is a tricky one if you're really on the ragged edge, avoids the curb. BMW going slightly wide, I think, at the exit there. Might give Knowles a bit of a run. We'll have to wait and see, obviously, as there's immediately a sequence of corners afterwards. Gap seems to be coming down rather quickly, but I think that's just a braking zone. And indeed, it is another yellow flag briefly. I think that might be for Chris Wacker. But it could just be him going slowly and me being lied to. In fact, Hagen is...
He's murdered a bollard.
He's murdered a bollard, indeed. Kevin Hunter just ahead of these two as they approach the hairpin. Ever so close to the Mercedes now. Obviously, we saw these two brewing up a battle earlier. The Aston Martin sticking as close he can to the Mercedes, lapping up as much slipstream as he can get. Waits for the little kink, onto the brakes for the hairpin. And keeps it nice and tidy. No chance of an opportunity yet. Though as they come out of the corner and they stay ever so close, but we can see the BMW and Porsche behind getting closer and closer still as well. Also lapping up the slipstream, and there's going to be a bit of a train forming, and that means more and more pressure for the Mercedes of Turner at the front.
Yeah, you can have all the rip out of the corners of the world with the Mercedes, but it doesn't help if you get that power down.
Indeed, we see Nazarian there going side by side with Ben Myatt. Ben Myatt just pulling ahead slightly as he takes obviously a wider entry, a better entry to the kink, and then the left-hander of Indianapolis, and now the right-hander of Menage onto the brakes. Porsche with the inside, Aston Martin giving him plenty of room onto the gas now. Obviously Aston Martin with the higher average speed through that corner. The Porsche with track position pulling away now out the corner. Aston Martin sticking with the Porsche, trying to keep up with some slipstream. I think this might be job said and done for now for Nazarian. We'll flip back to the train with the Mercedes and Hunter and Wacker not far behind. Aston Martin there running out a bit wide, obviously carrying a bit more speed. We see him sliding through that corner. They shouldn't need to worry about tyres this race unless they're doing anything silly, but it looks fine for now. We'll go on board with Wacker to see him try and catch up to the little battle ahead. You see this a lot when you're you're catching a couple of people fighting. You're like, I just need to get close enough. And whilst they're busy scrapping over each other, you see the Mercedes make a mistake going over the Sochi curb and giving the Aston Martin a chance. But you see this a lot as a driver, and you think, I probably can get close enough to take advantage of this and sneak on by while these two are fighting. And they go side by side, obviously, as they approach the first sequence of corners. The Aston Martin just gets ahead of the Mercedes, running wide and leaving the door very much open. The BMW now wants to have a go. Mercedes cutting, I think, as much of the corner as they're allowed to on the inside there, closing the door firmly on the BMW of Wacker behind, who's had a bit of an off. And we will certainly have a look at that replay. Just loses the rear.
Yeah, just must have taken too much curb on the exit, on the mid corner there, and then just lost it.
Yeah, and I think what's worse for them is they hit the wall with their front and then the side, so it was a double whammy, really. We'll have to see if they've got any damage. Oh, they'll have damage. See how bad it is when they get going, but there's a bit of crabbing there, I think.
A little to the left, yep.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. That was about to be a four-way fight to that position.
Yeah, unfortunate, really. We see Anderson there. Was he briefly flashing the Ferrari?
I believe he was.
Interesting. I don't know what led up to that, but they enter the Mulsanne straight, obviously getting closer and closer to the Ferrari of Ryan Davies. Laps up that slipstream as much as he can, pulls to the inside, the outside as he approaches the second chicane. Onto the brakes now, and the Ferrari has it covered, I believe. But certainly the BMW putting him under some pressure, wanting that position. Again, just sticking.
Hunter's getting out there too. Oh, they fight. More Hunter keeps moving up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and there is a 13-second gap between Ryan Davies and the 11 of Max Farrell, who themselves is inside the boot almost of Lewis in the McLaren there ahead of him as they approach the 90-degree corners. The McLaren looks like it's wobbly a little bit there of Lewis.
It's like it's saying, like, no, don't overtake me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the smallest tyre warming weave you'd ever seen in your life. It just looks like the most unstable suspension, but is there fixed setups in this? There is, isn't there?
Yes, it is fixed setup, yes.
It's not done anything wacky, it just looks odd, I think, on the stream then. We'll go on board with Max, see what he sees. In fact, I'll also just turn that mirror off. There we go. As they try and shorten the track as much as they can, heading towards the Porsche curves. Again, GT3 car especially, it's how brave can you be? How much can you open the corners up and carry as much speed as you can, keep it flat, get close to the wall, clip the inside if you dare.
Yeah, especially that second part. It's all about timing the braking right. Make sure that you don't scrub off just enough speed, but not enough that it like ruins your entry to the next one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I just got a glimpse of Webb's lead, 13 and a half seconds ahead of 14. It just keeps growing. 15 seconds, whatever it is, it's huge to Hackers there. As we see these two fly over the final chicane onto another lap. This can be so frustrating as well as a driver when you feel like you're pushing as much as you can, but you don't seem to be getting any closer.
Yeah, it's really frustrating, especially if you guys are near the same pace.
Yeah.
Right? You think maybe on the straight you can get him, and then all of a sudden you pull the side, nothing happens. Like, oh, I'll get him to the next corner, but you got the same pace for the corner. It's so frustrating as a driver.
It is, and I think we're far enough into the race now. We can probably have a look at some virtual energy information. If we can, let's have a look if it works on the stream, or if I have to do something else. Kind of, half and half. So 44% on Webb. So he will have a longer pit stop. Yeah, that's a fact. If he needs more to get to the end of the race, whereas obviously the other drivers, Knowles, for instance, who's just replaced Hackers. These two are fighting. Sorry, forget about the virtual energy podium battle here. P2 side by side they go, approaching a corner. I've completely forgotten all their names. The BMW just pulls ahead there, covers off the Porsche of Knowles, doesn't want to give this back up again. The BMW, who obviously started on pole, wants to get there as quick as he can and doesn't want to be scrapping with Knowles either, gets onto the Moleston straight. Both these drivers fairly even, it looked like, their entry here, which is obviously critically important. They do see a Porsche GT3 car of Hovsepp just ahead as well. That's something they'll have to take into consideration. The track is plenty wide enough to get past one, but what about the three that are just ahead of them? Hopefully they don't catch them going through any of these chicanes, because that would be mightily awkward. BMW there looking, thinking about it, decides to play it safe, and that all plays into Ollie Knowles' hands.
Nice. Beauty of multi-class racing, using the... Oh, Ollie overtook him. Wow, look at that. You see it again, using the traffic advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously, sure, sometimes you can't do anything about it. Sometimes you can lift and be in a position better than your opponent to get past the hypercar, past the traffic. But there is more to come. Maybe it'll flip back around again. Porsche alongside the Mercedes, down the inside, ahead of the Mercedes before the chicane, leaves the BMW dealing with that as he can now scrabble away and overtake the other traffic, which gives him crucially the room to take a bit longer to get past the GT3s if he needs to, because there is more than one car behind him now that the BMW will have to deal with. We also see Elliot Lewis, this is P3 in the GT3s, trying to get past P2 of Max Farrell in the GT3s. Side by side, these two go through the kink.
Farrell's actually overtook him, so this is a battle for... He's trying to retake the position.
You're right, yeah. Onto the brakes now. Max Farrell closing up ever so much. I thought he was going to take out the shiny silver McLaren of Lewis there for a second, but he didn't. Instead, close up on the brakes massively. We see the Aston Martin in the background of not Grevsman. Who could that be?
It's a little Webb.
Of Webb, indeed. My apologies. Of course it is, yeah. We see him sliding coming out of Indianapolis, and obviously the Toyota behind of Barnby, I'm going to say.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, there we go. Flashing that the GT3s to say, I'm here, don't move across, please. I know there's one that's a hypercar that just passed you, but I'm here as well. Gets through nicely without issue. Max Farrell still on the back of Elliot Lewis. Obviously these two passing and repassing each other, as you mentioned, and definitely have very similar pace and keeping up with each other nicely. Having a look at these two drivers' virtual energy quickly whilst we are on them. Max Farrell, 3-lap average usage, 9.4%. Elliot Lewis, average 3-lap usage, 9.4% as well. So yeah, fairly even, you might think. Well, the difference is Elliot Lewis has 0.7% as of the end of the last lap. Virtual energy less than Max Farrell if you was able to keep up with that. So we'll have to either stop sooner or have a longer stop, or have to fuel save a bit more, lift and coast a bit more, than Max Farrell. So, sure, he's ahead as it stands now, but with this gap, as it is at the moment, barely tenths, if he spends a second longer in the pit stop, he will lose his position to Max Farrell.
Yep, and especially since they're in the same car, the more that Max can push him to use his fuel more, and the more he can save staying behind him, it will help him in the pit stop.
Yeah, precisely. And actually that gap has grown now, so 1.5% difference in virtual energy currently between them in terms of what they've got left to use. As we see some hypercars go on by, that's the BMW of Hackers, 0.2 off the back of Ollie Knowles there. This is an interesting scrap, P2, P3, P3, but obviously all these guys wanting to get through safely, thinking, I'm P2 here, don't ruin my race. But ironically, I think both those drivers thinking that, so they all get through nicely though. BMW with, has to be said, a bit of a run on the Porsche as they approach the first chicane. Barely see him, he was concealed by the Porsche. That's how close he was onto the inside, just overlapping now side by side, door to door as he flicks his way into the first chicane. Runs a little bit wide on the exit there, but all well and fine, doesn't get flicked off by that weird curb at the exit. The Porsche wanting to come back at him as quick as he can, but I think he'll have to wait his time, see what it's like on the brakes. In the slipstream as well though, gap is closing marginally, and I think the second chicane will approach before he can pull alongside and do anything about it. And again, there's a GT3 car to make things even more interesting again.
He thought about going for the look twice there, trying to just give any kind of... trying to get Hackers a little bit uncomfortable seeing him in the mirrors.
Indeed, we did unfortunately just miss there an overtake by Hovsepp on the Mercedes of Turner into the first chicane. But Hovsepp moving back up the field after the incident we saw as well. Noel sticking with Hackers here, obviously, as they approach. Mulsanne through the little kink first, onto the brakes for the right-hander here. Don't go too wide in a hypercar. You know, you feel so big in a hypercar, that corner feels so much smaller than it looks like on track, widthways, I mean. But down again in the slipstream, closing up that gap, heading down towards Indianapolis. Plenty of time to get alongside if he has the speed. Pulls out, looks back in again. It's one of those situations, the moment you pull out of the slipstream, you just drop back again. Thank you for the reminder. As the Alpine, sorry. If it wants to switch to it. There we go. So this is the BMW locking up the inside there, going onto the gravel, avoids the wall, but costs him that battle, at least for now anyway.
It's really frustrating, you know, you're doing such a good job defending, and then the smallest little mistake leads to a 3-second long walk-up.
Yeah.
Losing position.
Yeah, and to be honest, that's probably one of the easiest corners to do it at, especially, you know, you've got that kink, you're battling someone, so you might not be on the right line. You've got to straighten the car, get onto the brakes, release the pressure enough to turn in with a good amount of speed. And it's a lot to do in such a short amount of time, really, and a horrible lock-up there. It's going to really feel it here, especially at this circuit, high speed. His rig is going to be vibrating like anything, honestly. But we'll come back to this. I went to this battle, but they've separated, actually. Let's look at Farrell again, knocking on the door of Lewis. He wants that P2. I see a little bit of damage, I think, on the front end of Max's McLaren, I'm going to say.
Yeah, there's a little bit, it looks like.
Yeah. As we approach, well, beyond halfway, I think, at this point. So maybe we'll see some drivers enter the pits. Maybe we'll see some drivers disappear like that. Max Farrell pulling his trap card out of his sleeve and just disappeared.
Oh, he's in the pits. He must have disconnected. His game must have crashed. That's a shame.
That's a real shame. And we've actually done, that's both podium battles we were watching literally disappear.
Yeah, that's almost commentator's curse.
Indeed. We've got Anderson here, though. Again, you know, trying to pass and battle with the Ferrari. The Ferrari, who now finds himself, by the way, in P3. And this is Anderson wanting to get onto the podium. As I was about to say, 20 minutes remaining. Maybe we'll see some pit stops here. Maybe we'll see them more at the end of the race. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, there's plenty of gaps on the circuit to slip on into. But maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you don't want to be in a gap. Maybe you want to be, with the slipstream of the car ahead to try and use a little bit less fresh energy, or try and have a bit more pace. You see Anderson there with a turn of speed pulled to the outside, which is my signature move, to be honest. I prefer the outside when I'm overtaking. But just not enough speed, and has kind of blocked himself with the Ferrari there. It's a bit of an awkward position because he does have a bit of speed. If he was on the inside, I think he would have pulled that off.
I think so too, yeah. Going on the outside, he had to take a weird compromise line into there. He lost a little bit. Oh, he's actually gained it on exit, though. Look at that.
Yeah, luckily, with the Ferrari going very deep there, and has given the BMW another, and maybe this is all mind games for Anderson, and this is how he does his passes, really. And they head up towards the second chicane there, into the slipstream. We even goes to Ferrari. Kind of side by side, but kind of not really. They aren't side by side, but they're electing to be in this position where they don't get the slipstream, and they aren't they aren't helping each other, obviously, as they wouldn't do. But again, the Ferrari goes deep. The BMW, I think, a bit more conservative through there that time, and gets onto the inside line for the right-hander coming up, just edging his way past the Ferrari little by little, and has kind of dominated that inside track position. This is my line, this is where I am, and is slowly, I think, pushing the Ferrari out so he can claim more and more of the racing line. Ferrari flicks to the inside. I think the BMW got a little bit too greedy there. Luckily, unluckily, isn't able to keep hold of it. The Ferrari, I think, just backs off there and lets the BMW go. But yeah, I think the BMW tried to push the Ferrari to the outside line there so they could carry a higher speed through the kink. I think they just got very greedy.
think there was a little bit of a tap there. That's why the Ferrari lit up a bit to
Yeah, I think so.
let him by. I think the weave there was a little I'm sorry.
We see Matt Hagan here on the back of the Aston Martin of Kevin Hunter. And thank you for the subscription, by the way, Jay Flashman, whatever you want. I don't know how to pronounce that. Thank you, either way. We see the Porsche there onto the brakes, just sticking with the Aston Martin. Oh, as we see the Ferrari ahead, lose it into the wall. So big front end damage there for Ryan Davies. And we are definitely going to watch that back on the replay just to see how that unfolded. Probably with a bit of a aggressive run out the corner, I'd imagine.
I think he's just trying to get the power down as quickly as possible, trying maybe challenge into Porsche curves. Yeah, really good under brakes, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go for it," and then he was lost.
Yeah, maybe a bit of aero wash there as well. Is try to get the power, lit up the rears, and had a word with the marshals.
Just giving them a close up.
Yeah, and now to be honest, this is the best time I think for the Ferrari to pit, cool those tires down a little bit. You know, just take a little bit of a breather, get back into the rhythm, and see what you can do. 17 minutes to go. We've got. Let's see, we've got 34% left. Oh, sorry, that's wrong. That's the wrong car. We've got 32% virtual energy left for Ryan Davies. Quite high usage, obviously, at Le Mans, so I think he's going to have to box. Let me just... Yeah, but everyone's going to have to box, but this is a good time to do it, by the way. Nice and slowly to the pits, not risking any penalties or anything like that.
You really don't want to get one here on top of the long lap, and then you're going to go through a long pit lane.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Let's have a look at Jen Metcalf briefly, shall we? On his own, 11 seconds ahead of Elliot Lewis in the Kachow I'm Speed Rusty's BMW. Absolutely chilling, it must be said. 23.5% Vert energy remaining. And his Vert energy usage is actually bang on average, pretty much for the GT3 field. So he's not going to have a slower stop. He can afford, really, if to lift and coast if he wants to have a shorter stop and risk, a funny pit stop. He's got that gap to do so without, any kind of pressure, really. And it might actually be worth doing, in my opinion. Let's see who's got anything a bit weird with their virtual energy. I can't see anything unusual. Carpenter, 7.1% virtual energy usage compared to the likes of 8.2% of Webb, Knowles, 7.8% of the remainder of the hypercar field. And, 1.1% is considerable, to be honest, particularly here.
Yeah, she's about 4% higher than the next person that has it pit, so that's a decent amount to be saving, especially around here.
Yeah, and actually the gap is only just 3 seconds to Ollie Norton, so I think there's going to be a bit of time saved in the pit stops, to be honest, as far as those two are concerned. Certainly. Let's have a look at. Let's get up here.
Webb's in for his stop.
Oh. Indeed, he is. A very quick stop, 14.5 seconds. I say very quick, 14.5 seconds. Stopped there for Webb as he comes out of the pits. Or crawls towards the exit of the pits, I should say.
Interestingly, he pit with about, I believe, 15%. I might have been wrong on my timing, but pit with about 15% left.
Yeah.
Put about 4 laps in, which is what should be to the end. Actually, he put 6 laps in, my bad.
Yeah, so I think Webb could have done one more full lap. Yeah. Oh no, he would have to come in next lap. So yeah, this lap or next lap would have been it, I think. Who's got the next slowest? Actually, Knowles, who's leading the race, so we'd probably see him next into the pits. And if you get it wrong slightly, and maybe you're following someone into the pits, particularly here when it's a wiggly straight and the GT3 is ahead of you, perhaps, unless you were doing Max Verstappen, Brazil or something. You could lose a mountain of time if you decide to pit when for some reason, the rest of the grid decides to pit. You know, so there's something to be said about having a slight offset, I think. You know, either earlier or later if you can, just to avoid those scenarios. Especially with obviously pit lane collision being a thing. You don't want to pick up any damage or have to wait for someone to get out of your way.
Exactly. I remember one of the races we did where it was just after the Merc came out. I offset pit stop and it ended up getting me up a ton of positions just because, you know, I wasn't pitting at the same time as others, would have to worry about all that shenanigans in the pit lane.
Yeah, exactly. We see here, by the way, almost a four-way. Anderson obviously leading the pack here with his BMW, this big green BMW. Hunter in the Aston Martin. We've got Hagen, the Porsche, and then we've... Oh, no, it is only 3. I don't know why I thought it was 4. I apologise. Hagen, Hunter, and Anderson having a little picnic amongst themselves. And it's kind of a who wants to blink first scenario, I think, in these ones. And usually it's the guy at the back who wants to pit first because they feel like they're being held up. So they'll try and do an undercut.
And it's typically the move, you know, especially if you think, you know, you can't get by them on the straight, or, you know, you're struggling behind them. It's better to just pit, try and get that fresh air. Just gun it out of the pits and go for it.
Indeed, and Turner here, maybe that's why I did think it was four-way. Turner's in the pits. We saw Nazarian leaving there. He was stopped for a mere 14.7 seconds. Turner here has been stopped for over 20 seconds now, so slightly longer stop for them. Maybe they're repairing damage. Maybe they're just being cautious with their fuel or vertex energy.
They were repairing damage because they were stuck at 50% for a little bit at their VE percentage.
Okay, thank you. Hunter here entering the Mulsanne Straight. Oh no, sorry, coming out the first chicane on the Mulsanne Straight, practically in the boot of Anderson in that BMW, who seems, you know, once you're ahead here, if it looks like you're slower, but I think, you know, the slipstream plays a big part of it, especially in a GT3 car. There's a bit of contact there, as they've not quite judged the overlap, I don't think, but they're still pointed the right way. No quarter given or whatsoever. Oh, I've always got no words. I don't quite understand that.
Yeah, that's it's a little rough there. He's letting him by, it looks like. It's going up. Yes.
So, there is a bit of contact. Aston Martin just doesn't want to concede any space to him, and there's contact even before the braking zone. And then coming back, they just tag each other. Oh, Porsche of Hagen nearly joining them, but instead comes with 1-2 positions. And finds himself running P3.
Great race for Hagen.
Indeed, yeah, up 5 places since the start of the race. Obviously yet to stop as well, but yeah, go on.
And just staying consistent. That's the main thing. That's what a lot of people got to realize about endurance racing is you stay consistent, you stay out of trouble, you'll probably do good at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely. As we see here, Ashley boxing there. We see Fiona in the pits, out of the pits now. Second quickest. Forget it. It was a quick stop. 13.5 seconds stops. And they will come out currently P5. We'll have to wait and see. Their pit time, by the way, the time they spent in the pits, and then obviously getting out again, 49.7 seconds. So it was actually 2 seconds slower. Oh, there is someone right behind him. 2 seconds slower than Mark Grevschmal, who had the same kind of stop time. So it does matter, the entrance and exits. It does cost you some places or time. Mark Grevschmal, really, speaking of Mark Grevschmal, this will be what the difference was. Fiona, 2 seconds slower in the pits, or now really coming out and really being pressured by the Aston Martin, who wants to get past them. Fiona's not letting them whatsoever, defending incredibly hard and quite well, I think, as they enter the Mulsanne Straight. Here comes the Aston Martin gearbox, but the Peugeot itself just seems to have a great turn of speed as well. Max Farrell obviously just confirming his internet has gone We'll have a look at the top speed for the Peugeot 333. So far, 334. It's still going up, and they obviously don't have the slipstream that the Aston Martin would have. So 336 it topped out. I wanted to have a look at the Aston Martin perhaps next lap as they get onto the second part, or the middle part of the Mulsanne straight. Aston Martin still sitting there ever so close to the Peugeot.
These must have such similar top speeds. The second you pull out of the slipstream, there's just nothing.
No, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think so. And it is incredibly awkward. I think with the Aston Martin as well, it's got a lot of top ends, but coming out these corners, it just concedes the lower gears to so many other cars. But eventually, if there's enough room, it'll claw back the difference. But let's see, now heading towards the hairpin, obviously. The gap just seems to grow too much out of the corners. Sure, he approaches in the later phase, but the gap's growing too much. It looks like the 328 at that final part of the Mulsanne straight. Now, as they head down towards the 90-degree corners, the left-hander, and the right-hander. Let's see where the difference is as far as cornering ability. The gap has grown quite a lot, though, coming out of the Mulsanne corner. Peugeot, Fiona themselves, obviously, seemingly faster than the Aston Martin. Gap's grown to almost a second, considering when Fiona came out the pits, she was scraping paint off the bonnet of the Aston Martin, and now they've, in less than a lap, they've pulled out almost a second.
Very impressive. Oh, it's gone wide, though.
Oh, sorry.
Anderson
and Fiona. We'll go back to Anderson in a second. Fiona going wide, as you say, coming out of Arnage, and let's see how Aston Martin through. Anderson, who was, leading that train, was holding off for so long, find himself wingless, much like his Peugeot friend, I am sure. Let's see how it happened. Let's see if I can go back any further. Nope, further still. Let's try this one. Here he is, with a wing, onto the brakes.
I know exactly how this happened. Oh, I was wrong again.
Do you know, that almost looks like a distracted driver. Yeah, it just goes onto the grass for at least seemingly no reason. Maybe he had oversteered that we didn't catch. But whatever the cause, whatever the reason, they find themselves wingless at the end of the lap at least, so they can repair that and get that back, which they'll definitely want to do if they can get that. Are they saying that? They're on the Mulsanne straight.
They're trying to wish they stop at the end of it.
Yeah. Well, can they get to the end of it first of all?
Oh. He's still going.
He's still going. He's trying. Oops. Let's go. Yeah, and watch him struggle.
Cars are very much crabbing now.
Yeah, we can see on the track map as well. There's no cars around, at least for some time, at least as well. We hear him lift there as well, actually. Just trying to get home safely. At this point, I would just go as straight as you possibly could. I mean, that's a track cut anyway, so why not? Lacerda, by the way, we saw him earlier on the race with some damage. Currently P5 in class. Let's have a look. Everyone above him stopped. Everyone behind him stopped, except for Max Farrell, who disconnected instead of stopping. So clawing back those places, obviously on the back of Nazarian now, as they head towards the Porsche curves. Two Porsches ahead of him, Nazarian and Hagen. Let's see what that mean-looking Corvette can do.
This will be a fight for third. With 4 minutes left, so there's a lap left.
Yeah, certainly. And if Hagen's watching this on his Delta and his MFT, seeing not only Lacerda approaching, but the time getting smaller and smaller. He's coming, and you're going as fast as you can, but he still is coming so quickly. Let's see if the Porsche of Nazarian can hold them off. Here comes an Aston Martin to throw things into the mix as well. Oh, certainly has done. Oops, that's not the one I wanted. This is the one I wanted. That's Webb, who was leading this race and is now not leading anything, I don't think, really. He's missing a tyre, missing a wing. So close to the pits, but so very far.
Oh, it's dead.
It's so dead.
It's dead. Oh no.
Let's have a little replay, see how that happened.
It's a shame.
It is a shame. I think he almost expected to be past the Corvette before
that's
that
also
happened.
dead too.
And that's also dead too. So I won't say commentator's curse or anything like that.
I was just about to say about that Webb might actually save Lacerda because Lacerda was only on 20% VE. And if they did an extra lap, he would have not made it. And Webb going past him would have saved him.
Oh, indeed. So that's cleared Nazarian of that threat. That's promoted Carpenter to P3 onto the podium. And also, let's think about what that's done for the standings. Webb, who was... Oh, sorry. Not Webb. Okay. Hackers, who's leading the standings, will continue to lead, obviously, and win it. Knowles running P7 in the standings, actually. So we'll get a whole heap of points. We'll have to see what that does to that. Carpenter P2 in the standings. So it's pretty close. And with only 2 minutes to go as well, I mean, I can just understand Webb's how he must be feeling, honestly. You know, that close, that far. And Le Mans as well. It feels like when you race at Le Mans, it feels like you put in so much extra effort for some reason, even though the race length is the same. I don't know what you think, Tyler, but it just feels like you put... even though it's less, really, because you spend most of it going in a straight line. But, yeah.
No, it definitely feels like, you know, like the last couple of laps, like you have to put everything on the line for some reason. Even if you're winning by, you know, like Webb was there with like by a marginal gap.
Yeah, exactly. Oh dear. Well, that's finished off our end of the race kind of battles. Really, there is a yellow flag. It's Anderson. He's made it to the pit lane. Well, the pit entry lane line. Let's see. Is he? He's tickling it in. I don't know if he's got some fuel or issue or dead engine issue or. He's got enough virtual energy. No, he's got... Okay. I don't think he's got enough virtual energy. What does it say on the EDK?
He's on 36%. What's happening?
Is he? Okay.
I think he's trying... There's a minute left. He's trying to wait for the line.
Okay. That's fair enough. That makes so much more sense. Well, there's your screenshot, Anderson. Well done. Race tonight. Nazarian 2 seconds away still. I mean, to go into this race and still be, you know, within touching distance of your opponent ahead. And I'm sure the drivers will be appreciating very much the constant yellow flags as well, caused by that BMW.
I mean, Hotspot here, he was at one point facing the wrong way and still is in P3 now.
Yeah.
Or P4, sorry.
Oh yeah, so you're right. Let me put this up. Make it a bit easier. There we go. P4. But yeah, certainly, and that just shows, you know, just get back on that horse, so to speak. Get into your rhythm again. Keep going. Anything can happen, and you know it does. And these recent races as well, the leaders and you know people running in top 5, whatever it might be, they find themselves in incidents or they make a mistake, which everyone does because they are human. And you find yourself up some positions, or you know, in a pit with less time to do, and you have a good race and a better result than you thought you would if you'd just given up when you have your instant and end up at the back of the field, as Nazarian did. Lacerda, I know he's out of the race now, but did he clawed his way back as well? As there's a checkered flag for the finish line. Hackers obviously coming home in his BMW, winning the race. Pulls alongside Ollie Knowles there briefly. We've got John Metcalf, who hasn't crossed the line yet, I don't think. Hard to say. Either way, is astonishing lead.
Oh, you're good.
Astonishing lead. Obviously, we haven't seen very much from him. He's avoided every battle there is this race because he's just been so dominant out so far ahead of everybody, and stayed safe really. Good result from them, obviously.
He's going to be the last car on track.
Yeah, I was trying to find
because
some others.
he was ahead of the leader.
There's a Mustang in this race. I had no idea. I do apologize, Mark Bryson.
To be honest with you, I said that halfway through to myself. I was like, oh my god, there is a Mustang in this race.
Indeed. And obviously Dean Smith in the Lexus. We didn't do a grid walk or anything like that to see the cars. I don't know if it worked, so I didn't even bother, to be honest. But there are plenty of drivers here. We haven't quite seen very much of tonight. I do apologise. Chris Wacker trying to do a donut, sorry, here. Struggled to do so. Gets on the horse. Was he doing a donut or did he just miss the corner? Whatever. Wacker, you were doing a donut. No, yeah.
He was doing a donut. Yep. We didn't see
Emily
anything.
And I've been informed Amelie, Fiona there. But let's actually run through the grid properly if I can find the button before we say goodnight. Session results. Let's do hypercar. There we go. So obviously Hackers leads the way from Ollie Knowles. Carpenter third in the Lamborghini. Aston Martin fourth. Greshmal. We saw them involved in a couple of instances as well, unfortunately. Grejner, Piotr fifth in the Peugeot. Ferrari, Dan Stevens. Another driver, Tyler. I had no idea was in this race. I do apologise. Ferrari, Toyota of Artemis, Alpine of Jacob Hein, Cadillac of Emily Jacomin. And I'm going to pause here because that's a different manufacturer. That's every manufacturer pretty much, isn't it? Top 9, completely different. Yeah.
I think so too.
Unbelievable. Yeah. Good job, everyone. Webb, 10th. Unfortunately, with that DNF, we saw what happened there. Barmby, DNF, Toyota, unfortunately, and Kevin Lenzen, again, another DNF, unfortunately. But good showing for everyone, obviously. Good race up to that point. We've got the TT3 standings here. Metcalf, we've talked about enough. I think Lewis in the McLaren. Second, Hagen in the Porsche. We saw a lot of them tonight. Nazarian similarly in the Porsche. Saw a lot of them too. Good job, guys. Kevin Hunter. Ben Myatt. We saw a couple glimpses of him. Good job there to get to the end. Davies, Turner, Brayson, and Dean Smith, followed by Chris Wacker, who I thought was doing better than 11th. I don't know what happened there, unfortunately. Anderson, again, we saw what happened with them. They eventually got to the pit lane. Rafael Lacerda and Max Farrell, who altered for... No, I'm joking, sorry, he had an internet problem. So, coming in
You
last.
have finished the rundown, and Metcalf still is on his final lap. He's coming up to the finish line now.
That's Le Mans for you, everyone. Wow. Thank you for watching tonight. Thank you for joining us this series. Thank you for racing with us this series as well, as Metcalf eventually comes across the line. It's been a pleasure racing, in a couple of races before tonight in the series. Excellent work there.
Fantastic donut.
Fantastic. It's been a pleasure to stream tonight. Thank you everyone for listening. I know Dave usually does it and does a fantastic job, but we've had to kick him out. I'm joking. He's taken the night off. And thank you everyone as well joining us in chat. Thank you, Tyler, as well, for joining me. There's so many things to say thank you for. How did you find that, Tyler?
That was really good. I mean, there was a lot of action, especially in those last couple 10, 15 minutes. Everything kind of popped off. And
yeah,
good.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it did. I looked up and there was 2 minutes left somewhere out of nowhere. Don't know where. Let me refresh the standings page as well. See if we've got any interesting movement on SimGrid, or whether it's just not going to update for half an hour. We'll have a quick look. We'll give that a minute. In the meanwhile, obviously, that concludes the season, the series, as I mentioned. This is the last week of season 3 for all the other events as well. Next week, we usually have some socials. I don't know what Johnny said, but they'll be announced if there are any. And then obviously in a couple of weeks' time or whenever it is, we start a new season. So if you've enjoyed watching or if you've enjoyed racing, do join us again. If you just want to watch and do some banter in the chat, that's fine as well. Do that. It's always fun to keep us company as well. If you've got any suggestions, anything like that as well, I'll mention that as well. So join the Discord. I think Dave usually does. I will do that tonight. There you go. Join us if you're not already in the Discord. Again, banter aplenty, coaches, helpfulness, friendliness, whatever you want is in there probably. I will give SimGrid one quick refresh. No, okay. In which case I'll just say good night and thanks for watching, everybody.